I've decided to record experiment 6.4 for class instead of just trying to do it live, so that we can it can be as easy to observe as possible. So you can see we've got all our materials set out here. We have our actual kitchen scale. It's not really a mass balance, but that's okay. It still measures in grams. We have our graduated cylinder. We have our oil, pitcher of water, and we have our syrup. We also have a 250 milliliter beaker that we are going to be using. Let me turn this around for you. So 250 milliliter. And we have an eyedropper there where you're going to use if we need to for the water, just to help us get a precise 50 milliliters. Water is our least viscous liquid, so that's another property we're going to learn about. So it can be a little hard. Sometimes you need to add it drop by drop. So our very first step, oh, and I also have a China marker, so you can see that. Now, if we were in an actual chemistry lab, this is something that they would use to write directly on their glassware when doing any kind of experiment. It's very nice because it washes off when you clean your glassware, but does not rub off during the experiment like regular dry eraser marker would do. So here we go. We are going to turn on our kitchen scale, and I'll show you. I've already got it set up. Hopefully it'll come back on. Oops, I need to give it a minute. I'm making it unhappy by picking it up. Okay, so I'm going to pick this up so that you can see we are indeed in grams, and we're going to weigh our graduated cylinder and let it get back to 0. We are going to put this on here and determine that the mass of the graduated cylinder is 47 kilograms. Let me see if I can tip this a little bit so that you can see how that's coming out. There you go, 47 kilograms. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write this right on our work surface, which is very nice. 47, I'm sorry, I said kilograms, 47 grams, obviously not kilograms. That would be like a person. Okay, so now we are going to need this measurement for every single one of our calculations. So we're just going to put this in its own special little box because that's a very important measurement for us. And I actually am going to use a little coconut oil bottle as a stand to put our graduated cylinder on so that you can really see the measurements as I pour. And we're going to make sure you can see the 50 milliliter line right here. There we go, 50 milliliters. Back it up just a little bit so the focus is good. Okay, and we are going to start with our vegetable oil. And I'm sorry, we're going to start with our syrup. So we take our bottle of syrup, and I'm just going to be really careful here so I don't dribble any down the sides or anything. Okay. And as we get closer to that 50 mil mark, we're going to slow down. And we're going to remember we want the bottom of our meniscus sitting right on the 50 milliliter line. It's a really weird way to do this. Okay, and there we go. You can see that we've got, it's hard, this is one of the harder ones to see the meniscus line, but you can see that's our 50 mil, and our meniscus is sitting right on top of it. And so our next step, we're gonna weigh our syrup, and we're just gonna determine, we're actually gonna determine the mass of our syrup. So I'm gonna put this back on our kitchen scale, and instead of moving the camera again, you're gonna have to trust me, it is 113 grams for the syrup. Okay, just write that on our handy board there, and we are going to dump our syrup now into our beaker so that we can see how they interact. And so we're going to pour this right in here. Then And I am going to go clean this graduated cylinder so that we are not mixing any of our oil and water and syrup together while we're doing our measurements, because that would invalidate our experiment. Just like with gold, if you have other substances in the gold, you're going to change the density, right? So we're trying to determine density. We don't want to mess it up right now. So, get this nice and clean. I'm not going to worry this time about drying it too much, because the next thing I'm adding is water. So if I were doing another, when I switch from water to oil, I will dry it well. But since I've just got water droplets in here, I don't have to worry about water adulterating water. And what I'm just using is plain tap water. Make sure you can see the 50 milliliters again. I'm going to take our tap water and we'll pour it in here. You can see water is a little harder to control the drip by drip. So when we get close, I am going to use the dropper. So okay, we're almost there. So now I am going to take our eyedropper, and I don't know if you can see this. I have to go right in front of the oil here. I'm going to just use our eyedropper and pull up some water, and we're just going to go by the dropper full and see if we can't get it right there on that 50 ml mark. And you can see the meniscus a little bit better with the water than with the oil, or I'm sorry, with the water than the syrup, and you're going to be able to see it the best with the oil. Okay, a little bit more. One more dropper, I think. Okay, you can see it's right on the line right now. We need it right above. We need that bottom of the meniscus right on our line. Okay, there we go, perfect. See that, how it's sitting right there, and you can see that little kind of line of separation that's happening right between the water and the surface of the water. It's the surface tension as it climbs up the side of the cylinder. It causes that meniscus. And so now we are going to weigh our water. Move this back out of the way, put this back on our scale, and we are going to discover, scale turned off. We are going to learn that our water comes in at 96 grams. Okay, then now we are going to take our water and we are going to add that to our beaker. This is a really awkward way to do this, y'all. Okay, and you can see it starting to mixing a little bit and then separating. I'm going to set that aside. And now I am going to take a minute and I'm going to dry my cylinder, because I do not want to mix the oil and the water. So have to be a little creative to dry this, because I don't have proper lab equipment. And actually, if I had multiple cylinders, I would just use 3 separate cylinders, and I would go ahead and determine the mass of each cylinder that I was using with the individual substance. So I'm actually taking, if you want to see, I've got a chopstick and a cloth that I've just used to dry my cylinder, which is kind of funny, but it works. Okay, so now we have our cylinder all nice and clean again. Put it back where you can see it, and we are going to lastly do our oil. And this one, you're really going to be able to see the meniscus nicely on this. to let it sit a minute because you can see those bubbles rising. And as the bubbles rise, they're collecting right underneath the bottom of the meniscus. And as it settles, you can see that line of separation there. You can see it really nicely. And we just need a few more drops of oil to put us where we need to be. Very close. Pharmacist skills, y'all. Pouring is part of the job. Oh, and see, I got arrogant and I messed it up. Look at that. Oh, my word. We are just gonna pour some of this off. And I'm actually gonna use my little dropper guy again. See that? God says, child. Oh, are we right there? Look, we're right there. Ha! Okay, that's perfect. So now you can see the meniscus, you can see it resting right on the 50 milliliter line, and we are gonna go ahead now and we are gonna cap this oil because no one wants to spill oil all over their kitchen. And we are gonna now set this on the scale again. First, I'm gonna tip this camera back where you can see our workspace. You can see what we've got going on down here. Make sure our scale is on again. And we are gonna put the oil on there, and we are going to learn that the mass of the oil is 91 grams. Okay, so let's put this where you can see the measurements now. Okay, and I am going to move this scale out of the way and put the beaker there and let you see this being added. So we've got our water, we've got our syrup, and now we're going to put our oil in here. And you can see it making that really clear distinction between the oil and the other substances. And let's bring this up. Okay. Oh, I have too high. Okay, can you see that? You see the differentiation where you've got the oil or the syrup sitting heavily in the bottom there? You can see the water here. So we've got the oil down here, or oh, I keep mixing them up. You see the syrup down here at the 50 ml line where it's very dark, okay? And then we see here in that transition spot, the next 50 milliliters, where it's distinctly lighter, but you can tell that already, remember, water is going to dilute the syrup. They are actually combining right now, and you can see a little bit of that reaction going on right between in there at the line between the syrup and the water, where those sugar molecules are starting to dissolve in the water. If I leave this out long enough, this whole bottom layer is gonna combine. But we get up here with the oil and we know, and we've got the 100 to 150 mils. Clearly that's our oil. And we know that that is not going to combine with our water because, anybody remember? Polarity? We'll figure it out in class. So here we see here we've got our first 50 mils, which is our syrup, our second 50 milliliters, which was our water, and you can really see at the top the distinction. But I said that, there is some mixing going on. And then we see very clear differentiation with our oil sitting on top. So, okay, that's it for this one. And we are going to do 6.32. Be back.